Good evening. I'm going to call to order the August 25th meeting of the Lake Quinsigamond Commission for, I will be chairing this meeting. My name is Amanda Amory, and I'm going to ask each commissioner to please introduce themselves.
Jason Gorman, Worcester Police Department.
Bill Nelson, Grafton Commissioner.
Mike Vito, Shrewsbury Police Department.
Lisa Labossiere, Worcester Commissioner.
Jonathan Nickerson, Grafton Conservation Commission member.
Okay. First on our agenda is we need to make an appointment for the at-large seat for a 3-year term to be voted by the 3 citizen reps from Worcester, Grafton, and Shrewsbury. This is going to be postponed until the next meeting when Mike Pica is present, because he has to be present to vote for that new seat. So I'd like to entertain a motion to table this until the following meeting.
Motion to table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the June meeting?
Yes.
And does anybody have any questions on those minutes? I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes for the June meeting.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from the June meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The July meeting is not available until the next meeting, so we will entertain the motion at that point. Item 4 on our agenda, we have review and approval of the bills and expenses, and Angela will give us a list of those.
Sure. We had 2 bills for the month of July. One was to ESS. It was $960 for the Half Moon Bay Prosilicor pilot study. The second bill for ESS was $3,000 water quality lab work for 60 samples. I'm sorry, I think that wasn't for ESS, that was for the Watershed Association that we had agreed on at a previous meeting.
Are there any more?
That's it.
Okay, is there a discussion on these? Can I have a motion to approve the list of expenses as presented?
Motion to approve the list of expenses.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on. We have a public hearing. We're early for that. Is that okay?
No.
Okay,
So we
we're
could do
going
the
to
commissioners.
Put this aside until 7:15 to give everybody that wants to be here for that a chance to arrive. So next on the agenda is the commissioners' reports. And we will start on this end over here.
Regarding the Worcester Police Department, the lake, most of our time has been concentrated on Indian Lake, unfortunately, this summer. When we have been on the lake, we put 2 officers on. We have had boat problems. The engine on the Worcester Police fire boat is now seized, so now we just have a small Boston whaler to use. The administration's aware of it, so we'll be traveling our boat to and from the police department now to, we've been using the Shrewsbury ramp because our ramp is not worthy for boat launching. So we've been using the Shrewsbury Police launch. We have 2 patrols scheduled for Labor Day weekend.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nelson?
A question on that. Is that boat used in any other lake or just on Lake Quinsigamond?
The one we use, it's used on Indian Lake.
Is it?
It's washed,
clean?
it's washed, yeah. We bring it to the garage, because it was brought up by an Indian Lake Commission person, same how you asked.
Okay.
Lake Quinsig to Indian Lake.
Yeah.
And we weren't aware of that, so we power wash it when we get to the garage after every use.
Okay, thank you. I just have one comment. I have been out in the lake, but I'm out there early in the morning, 5:30 or 6:30, and I haven't seen any jet skis. The only real problem is that early in the morning are the water skiers, the early morning water skiers. And I try to stay as far away from them as possible to avoid their wake, so I don't get that good a view of what their numbers are in the bow. But I'd swear the whole month of August, I haven't seen a single boat towing a water skier with an observer in the back. There's only been a driver and the water skier. And my understanding of the Massachusetts laws, there's supposed to be an observer over the age, I think it's 15, I'm not sure, watching the skier in case there's any problem, can notify the driver.
I can't speak of the early morning stuff. We're not, we're not out there till, the earliest we get out there is like 12 or 1. Ours isn't a, per se, patrol. I mean, ours is like a 4-hour overtime shift. So we try to do 1 to 5 or 2 to 6. When I do have an available body, it's an actual shift. But we're always in the we're in the afternoon. I don't see it in the morning. I can talk to my captain about seeing if we get a morning patrol out there. I can't guarantee it though.
No, I wouldn't
Okay.
expect you to.
All right.
It's, there's 2 or 3 well-known water skiing boats early in the morning, but otherwise, that's the reason why I'm there early in the morning. The lake is quiet. It's not really worth having a special patrol out there that
Okay.
early. That's all.
Thank you. Sergeant?
Beatles.
Beatles?
So just to answer your question on that, if we do have some MS numbers, we can talk to those people specifically, and then we can address it with them. Or we can try to stick an early patrol out there once in a while to try to mitigate those issues. As far as Shrewsbury goes, we've had a very successful time staffing the boat. I think there was only one day this year we weren't able to. We had just a perfect storm of staffing issues going on, people out sick, but we still had someone on for an emergency purpose. But historically, for the whole summer this year, we've had a boat out there with 2 officers, and we've been trying to do what we can to help out. So it's been very successful year so far for us.
It's good to hear.
And we did participate in the adaptive water ski event, which I talked to Commissioner Collins, and he said it was a great success. So we were very excited to do that.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so I only have one item to report, and that's that the Worcester Conservation Commission has received a withdrawal of the permit request, or the dock installation request that came before our board for 874 Bayview. So there's a lot of information there that needs to get negotiated, and so the Worcester Planning Board and the Conservation Commission will be working with that property to come up with what is going to be the final solution there. Okay, and Lisa?
I have some really great news. I met with the city manager, Augustus, and city councilor Candy Carlson last week to discuss the plans for the park that will be going in North Lake Ave. And basically explain the concerns of Brownie Beach being across and what's happening at Brownie Beach, how it's going to affect the park. So hopefully we'll be in discussions to kind of maintain the area with a little bit more safety observances. Maybe put a design to make the water's edge more accessible as part of the park. So, I mean, that's exciting, and I'll keep you posted as I hear.
Thank you. Is that everything?
That's all I got.
Okay, and then, where's your name? I'm sorry, I should know. Jonathan Messerson?
I do not have a report.
No report, okay. Thank you. Moving on. We have 3 more minutes until 7:15, so I'll take one more item out of order. Angela, would you like to give us a brief update on the lake management plan?
Sure. So we finally got a bid awarded to Solitude Lake Management to do treatment of Lake Quinsigamond and also Newton Pond. Took a while to get the contract signed, and they're actually working on their end, reviewing the permits and making sure they have the proper permits from the state in order to apply the product, and we're hoping it's gonna happen next week. When we have a date, we'll obviously let the commission know, and we'll let, Shrewsbury, Worcester, Grafton, all the towns know. We will put information on the Town of Shrewsbury website. We'll send it out on the listserv. So I just want to remind people to join the Town of Shrewsbury listserv. If you go to the Lake Quinsigamond page, you can sign up to get our email. That's where we send information about what's going on at the lake, and we would send out any information about that treatment through that listserv, so that's how the public can be aware of it as well. So it's unfortunately, it took us a long time. We had a couple of bumps in the road, but we're still proceeding, trying to get that moving for everybody.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question? This is a little late in the season according to the biology of most of the invasive weeds. Is it that affecting this in any way?
Solitude will make a decision when they can get out there. If there's something that they were supposed to do that is not going to be effective, they're not going to do it. So they will review that with us.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
Any other questions? So, by my watch, I have 7:15.
I have 7:12.
Do we want to take another thing out of order or start into the public hearing?
I think you have to wait till 7:15
Yeah.
to allow people to
Yes.
come.
Okay.
I still have 2 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Okay,
At least
so
Conscom does it that way.
next on the agenda is discuss and vote on special permit applications with request to restrict public access for Luke from Regatta Point. Is Luke here?
I am.
Okay, would you give us an overview?
Hello, my name is Lucas Markren. I'm from Regatta Point Community Sailing. I'm asking for a special permit application for the 9th and 10th of October for Crew Regatta.
Okay,
Sheriff, can I ask a question?
you may.
Sure.
This is the crew regatta for who? Could you just give a few details?
Sure, it is mostly for high schools and then also masters, for singles, doubles, quads, and then a couple of larger boats for the high school regattas.
Can you give us an idea of where your start and your finish line will be, and whether it's going to be on the Shrewsbury side or the Worcester side?
Well, it's going to be on the water, which is nice. But the start of the race is Long Island, where the Eagle's Nest is, and then would finish at the Donahue Rowing Center. We have an optional short course that starts at the Narrows, which would also end at the Donahue Rowing Center.
Okay. Are you requesting to restrict public access to the lake?
I believe last time we did this 2 years ago, they did require us to shut down the ramp during the hours that we were racing.
Chair, another question? What are those hours?
Sure. Specifically, the coxswain's meetings are at 7:15 each day, and we will be done ideally by 1 o'clock each day.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
is that Columbus weekend?
That is Columbus Day weekend.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions or concerns? Yes.
So people would be able to use the boat ramp then after 1 o'clock?
Correct. Yep.
And then one of the stipulations for the boat ramp, and the state will tell you this, is that you're going to have a sign up that says that the boat ramp will be closed for an event?
Yep. I think we've already had plans to do that.
Okay.
Yep.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none. Is there a motion to approve this event as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve this event.
Second?
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Now it's 7:15.
All right, jumping into our public hearing. So this is a public hearing for dock removal at 2 Suntog Road in Worcester, Mass. The Lake Commission has scheduled a hearing to take testimony and consider evidence to determine whether a dock installed at the end of Suntog Road in Worcester has been installed according to the rules and regulations of the Lake Quinsigamond Commission. The dock in question is on Suntog Road, owned by Craig and Donna Krikorian. The Lake Commission, acting under the authority of Chapter 294 of the Special Acts of the Legislature of Massachusetts of the year 1916, has amended by Chapter 357 of the Acts of 1973 and other amendments thereto, adopted rules and regulations pertaining to Lake Quinsigamond. The Lake Quinsigamond Commission has the authority to regulate dock installation on the lake. A dock can be installed under this criteria: a dock used, owned, and maintained by a land-owning abutter of the Lake Quinsigamond for the docking of a boat or personal watercraft that is owned by the land-owning abutter. Lisa, can you provide us with an overview of the complaint regarding the dock on Suntog Road?
I can. At 4 Suntog Road, the owners, new owners of the property, had come to the board questioning the legality or, of the dock being in front of their property. What's happening is the boats, the dock is at the end of the street, which is actually a private way, and there's 2 boats. So one boat is actually in front of their property, the other boat is in front of the street. The Grabarios had asked for the dock to be removed. In the meantime, we did a little bit of our legwork, and after checking with the Register of Deeds, the only water access property is Suntog 4, Suntog 5, A and B. So therefore, if 2 is the owner of this dock, and 3 has a boat there as well, they would need to remove them as they're not lake abutters.
Chair, Mr. Chair, a question?
Yes.
The map you provided each member, is the owner you're referring to the one outlined in yellow on the map?
If you look at 4,
Gotta dig out that packet.
down at the end of Suntog Road,
Yes.
the dock is actually right at their
That I
property line.
understand. I'm wondering who the owner is. Is that the house that is outlined in yellow?
Number
on the-
2, correct.
Okay, thank you. So it definitely is not an abutter to the lake.
And apparently, the years past, this was all one family's property. So this private road was considered a common area. After checking with the city, the common, on a private street, you only have to the middle of the road at your property lines. So it doesn't extend down to the water.
Thank you.
Any other questions before I turn it to, do we have Craig and Donna here, the Cricorians? Would you like to come up and speak?
I'm Craig. I'm sorry, my wife can't be here. She's actually homesick with the virus.
Sorry to hear that.
So my name's Craig Krikorian. I live at 2 Suntog Road. I've been living there for over 20 years. When I first moved in, everyone who lived on that street was 2 or 3 generations living there, family-owned. And it was like a nice, it's a small street, small community. And, talking with them and the neighbors and getting along, it was, what's the access kind of situation with the end of the street? And she said, oh, for years, we used to just all be down there. It was like a nice little community. I said, being able to put a dock, she's like, yeah, we had docks out there. This is going back for decades, they've had this. So I said, okay. I went through the proper channels. I applied for a dock and got approval for a dock through at the time, the chief of police of Shrewsbury and the Lake Commission. And it was a non-issue. And since then, the houses have turned over. And, trying to be neighborly and everyone's gotten along, and we try to share the dock. And at one time, the 3 of us, the 3 houses that don't abut the water, were able to fit 3 small 18-foot boats in there. And it was, it didn't encumber on anybody's property or anything like that. When the new neighbors moved in, they asked, what can we do? I said, well, if you get a small, 18, 19-foot bow rider like I had there and showed them, like it shouldn't be, it's not an issue. It fits in perfectly because there's a boat ramp to the left. There's also water runoff at the end of the street that had since been put in prior to the old neighbors living there, and that's another issue. But there's enough room to put 3 small boats and everybody share it and things like that. What had happened is they had decided to get a large 20-something pontoon boat, extended the dock themselves out. It upset the new people, and this is where we ended up having the problem with, it's kind of taking advantage of the space.
Can you clarify for me? You're at 2 Suntog.
Yes,
Do you have a dock that is specific to your property, or is this the dock that's in question?
this is the dock that's in question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but this is the dock that, like I said, I had applied
And
and
received a
gotten
permit
approval
for.
for it. So, I've been using it for over 15 years. It's been shared, it's been, it should be a nice little community street. It's a dead end, everyone gets along. I know we don't live in a world quite like that anymore, but we should. And, that's basically the story on how it's been. I tried to do everything correctly. I paid every year for the dock license. We maintain the area down there ourselves. The water runoff, it was broken. We, my neighbor had repaired it without having to, call anybody. We paved the street ourselves, even though it's a private street and we're responsible. So we've tried to maintain the street and get along well as neighbors. But the situation with putting a boat that large out there created a lot of tension, and it's kind of not fair for all of us, I think, that tried to get along and use the space cooperatively. And that's where we're at, and it's unfortunate, I think, that we have a situation like this that hopefully we can try to resolve. I'd like to see if the situation can be resolved in some way or form.
Your property does or does not abut the lake?
No.
It does not? Okay. All right. So, and the property that wants to put the pontoon boat is which one?
It's, I believe it's number 1 Suntog. It's across the street from me.
That's the email that we received.
Okay, and they do abut the water? They do.
No.
They do not abut the water?
Mr. Chair, can I ask a clarification?
Sure.
We would start to talk about a dock, now we've mentioned boats, so I just don't want to be absolutely clear on this. We are talking about the dock and whether or not it needs to be removed, but my question is, does that, when the dock is removed, does that mean all the boats are removed as well, or do the boats stay? I want to be clear on what we're talking
Well,
about.
that's a good question.
So you mean be able to have like a mooring kind of situation?
Actually, I don't know, but one of the things I'm thinking about this, my brother happens to be on a pond down in Plymouth. They're not allowed to have docks according to DCR 3 years ago, but they are allowed to keep their boats pulled up on shore. So I know that that has no bearing on this situation, but I'm just wondering if we're just talking about the dock here, or we're also talking about the boats here.
And that's a good question, because I imagine if you have a boat there, you're going to need to put it somewhere once the dock is removed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have thoughts on that?
Do I have thoughts on that? Again, I think it comes down to working cooperatively amongst, if permission like that is granted. There would be, like I said, when there was 3 houses that were sharing this dock, and we all had small 18-foot bow riders, and they all fit fine. The situation was when this large pontoon boat came in, and it doesn't create enough space without encumbering the neighbor, which we don't want to do, and leaving space. There's a boat ramp that's used by us that we don't want to do. So, if you're going to kind of throw that out, that also would be, I think, difficult, but not fair if we were able to do it. I mean, we'd have to come up with a resolution to be able to, to utilize. Like I said, I've been there for 20 years, and, utilizing this, and the other neighbors that have moved in since we were all able to get along and utilize the space without any issue.
Just further clarification, the 3 boat owners who are using the dock, not one of them is a land owning abutter?
Correct.
I mean, a frontage owning abutter?
Right.
Okay, got it. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, I don't know if it's, I don't know who got notified of this meeting. I know I got a letter. I don't know if the other abutters to this had gotten a letter. I'm not sure how that is. I don't know if it's worth having them being able to speak on this and see how it affects them, since it is, you know, try to maintain a small community situation there. If that would be something that would be thought of and, you know, have another opportunity to have people to speak on this.
Lisa, do you know who was contacted?
I'm not sure what was mailed to who,
Okay.
but this has been ongoing since May, and it's been brought up at every meeting. I don't know if you guys,
So this is the first I'm hearing of it. This is the first time I've gotten a letter, so I don't know why it's been brought up since May, if I, the owner of it, and haven't heard. This is the first time I've heard of anything.
it was on the agenda that it would be discussed, I believe, July and
Right, it was the
August.
first
You
time I've
don't
received a
know
letter
whether or not
for it.
the abutters were actually notified?
I don't know.
Okay.
Comment, if I can. The speaker has referred to several times of this community of people who have used this, but unfortunately, each time he has limited himself to the 3 people or the 3 houses that are not abutters to the lake shore. For us to really talk about the community here, we should hear about the other 2 abutters on the end of the road on each side, which are part of that community of 5 houses, because they're the property owners who are having things extend past the edge of the road onto their property. So we
Right.
really, if we want to talk about a
And it's-
community, we should have the whole community here, not just the half that is not on the water.
And just to address that part, the way it's set up, the road is set up sort of perpendicular, and the dock is perpendicular to the road. The property that is butts to the right is sort of at an angle. So even though the dock is straight, perpendicular to the shoreline, as it goes out and the abutter's property goes like this, it looks like the boat is encompassing on
I
the
understand the
property. But
geometry.
that's all I'm saying, that, you know.
I understand
So
the
that could
geometry.
easily be shifted.
Madam Chair, I've been out to the property, I've walked the property. And I've taken pictures of the property from the water. It's right in front of her house.
Right, and I'm saying that it could be easily shifted, so that's not like that, is the
But
point I'm making.
There's 2 boats.
Right,
One boat, if you're looking at the house from the water, on the right.
yes,
And the boat on the left is clearly in front of her property.
right, because the dock is perpendicular.
And then
If we put the dock at the same angle, what I'm saying is at the same angle of that property, you wouldn't have that issue, is what I'm saying.
But you're not a lake abutter.
Well, I'm just addressing what he was saying, that's all.
Okay. Do we,
Madam Chair,
yes.
just a point there. I mean, I don't want to state the obvious, but if you angle it the other way, then we'll be saying the same question about the property on the other side of the street.
No, because we wouldn't go over that far, because you'd have a boat ramp, we don't want to encumber on the boat ramp.
Okay, then you'd be blocking the boat ramp if it's at an angle to the boat ramp.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm sorry that I have to interrupt the hearing for a minute, and I need to speak to you because it's somewhat of a sensitive issue that has to be addressed immediately, if I can, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm going to put the public hearing on pause for just a minute. It has come to my attention that there is a sensitive issue here that's related to health. And so what I'm going to do is ask if there's a motion for a continuance so that we can continue this at our next meeting.
Motion to continue.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. The meeting will be continued at our next scheduled meeting at the end of September.
Is there already a date for that? Is there,
We haven't set a
September
date, but it's
29th.
usually the last Wednesday of the
Okay.
month. Okay,
September 29th?
okay. And so at that point, I will open the discussion up to any other members from the public who want to be heard at the hearing, and then we will close the hearing and make a decision. Okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, so moving on. Where are we? So we covered Patrick Diggins from the QRA. Is he here? That was part of the discussion on the special permit? Patrick, no, it's not.
I think
Okay.
we're on item 8B, Madam Chair.
8B, thank you. All right, so Patrick Diggins from the QRA. Can you give us an overview of your event and where the start-finish line will be?
The snake race is on October 16th. That runs from a little bit beyond the Narrows, heading south, and runs down to the Donahue Rowing Center. It is just a collegiate event, and it usually runs about 8:30 in the morning or so until 1:30 in the afternoon. Wormtown Chase is a little bit different. It goes actually around the islands at the south end of the lake and comes back and finishes. It starts heading south, comes around the islands, comes back and finishes at the Donahue Rowing Center. That is college, high school, masters.
Okay. Are you requesting to restrict any public access to the lake?
Yeah, the boat ramp during the times that the races are being run. And obviously, we'll keep the Shrewsbury side open for boat traffic, as we do with all of ours.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, similar to Bill's question for the previous, what are the hours that you're going to be requesting the restriction?
Just during racing hours, so it'd be probably 8 o'clock in the morning. And I don't remember the hours exactly, but I think it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the 16th, and on the 30th, it'd be 8 o'clock in the morning until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Any further comment? Okay. Is there a motion to approve these events as they've been
I
presented?
make a motion to approve these two regattas.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion passes,
Thank you very much.
and we'll see you on those dates. Review of correspondence, number 9. We have received 4 items in the last month. The first was a letter from Joseph Fontecchio concerning the dock and deck proposal at 74 Bay Edge Drive. He is in a butter to the property, and he had concerns of, I had this somewhere. I've lost it. Basically, he was concerned about whether or not the property had been surveyed to determine if it's accurately following what the deeds say, or because there's confusion between what the deeds say and what the assessor's records say. He wants to see evidence of permanent markers that mark where those deed vertices are, and whether or not there clearly is frontage for that property. And then he has questions about why a 16-foot wide dock is at a 10-foot of frontage. Is there a standard for minimum frontage on our lake rules? And is there a legal ruling pertaining to how far property rights extend into the lake for fronting lots? and I don't have the answers to those questions.
Madam Chair, I have a question here. Reading this ahead of time, I find a contradiction. Half of his article, his first point is that the property comes to a point, it's got zero width, so there's no frontage. And the other half keeps on referring back to the 10-foot of frontage. So looking at the map, I'm confused as to what that 10-foot of frontage is.
So's he. So he's saying that the assessor's map is drawn in such a way that the line for that property seems to connect to one point only. I think, from my understanding of how assessor's maps work, that's likely to be an error, and we need to follow the deeds. So
I understand
he's
following
bringing-
the deed.
Yes, he's bringing up the point that we need to look at the deeds, and we need to get the property owner to survey his property to see if he in fact does have the 10-foot of frontage that he claims.
Okay, to follow up then, my understanding is then that this is really a question for the City of Worcester's Assessor's Office and the Registry of Deeds before we can make a decision then, because we have to know the correct facts.
I agree. I think it should go before the planning board and the Conservation Commission before it ever comes to us. We can't issue a dock permit until we have that detail.
Agreed.
Keep in mind, this is on the other side of the 4 Suntog Road.
I think the two things should be kind of held in separate
Yeah.
hearings. Any other comment on that letter? Moving on. The next letter is a letter from Stanley Coretta, requesting to know if they can hunt on Flint Pond down around the Iron Mountain, what's the area down there?
The Irish
The
Dam.
Irish Dam.
Irish Dam. Yeah, I had it written in here. And as long as he stays outside of the 5 foot from a dwelling and 500 foot and 150 foot from a road, or if a landowner grants permission. Does anybody know whether we can hunt down there?
I would have to defer to the environmental police on that one. So I can get an answer, I just would not have one right now.
Okay.
I'll just clarify the rules and regulations on hunting in that specific area.
And then could the town of Shrewsbury send them something?
Yeah, we can relay through the email he sent.
Wonderful, thank you. So the next letter is a letter from Benjamin Oyario. He's wanting to know what the requirements for operation of a jet ski rental business at Lake Quinsigamond would be, and any advice on what the steps would be to take, so that's coming up as a,
I believe we sent him an email asking him where he was going to do this, and we haven't gotten any more information.
okay, so we're just waiting for a response from him. Okay.
Does he already have a jet ski rental business?
It's possible.
He didn't respond
Oh, I see.
beyond the first email, so.
Okay. Letter number D.
Can I ask a
Yes,
question
sure,
on
go
that? I really do not know the answer to this, so I'm just asking for information. I just reviewed the rules on the jet ski in the Lake Quinsigamond Commission booklet here, and it said nothing about location. So my question is, if you are going to have a jet ski rental business, must it be physically located on property on the lake? Or can it be a transient business out of a truck at a boat ramp?
Well, it can't be at the boat ramp. So the state boat ramp regulations do not allow a business to operate, so he would not be able to exchange jet skis at the state boat ramps.
Piggybacking on that question, I wonder, does he need to be an abutting landowner, or can he rent property from somebody and run his business that way?
Yeah, I mean, he needs to give us more information on what he's trying to do.
Okay, well, it would be useful to know the answers to those questions, too.
Currently, they do rent jet skis out of Southbridge. There's someone is doing I don't know who's doing it on the lake, but there's someone from Southbridge drops jet skis. The money's exchanged through PayPal and stuff like that, and he drops his jet skis off, and they are used on the lake. And I brought that up to the environmental police, and they said that it was okay for them to do that there. There was no state law that prohibited
Okay,
them to do that.
but the question would then be, would it be a part of our commission?
I'm not sure. I just know that currently there are rented jet skis on Lake Quinsigamond from out of town.
Yes. Okay, so we know what's happening.
Okay.
All right, the fourth letter is from Christina Zolo. Lake Quinsigamond, is it safe for swimming and boating right now? Are there any advisory restrictions placed on the lake? And I'm guessing that that's a few days out of date now.
Yeah, this is from last month, so there's no advisories. The only thing I would mention is that if there's an advisory at Regatta Point, you would have to check with Regatta Point. But the Lake Commission has no advisories at this time.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know, thank you. All right, so that brings us to item number 10. And we're looking for an update from Jacqueline Burmeister from the environmental analyst of Lakes and Ponds, Worcester, DPW and Parks. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Burmeister. I'm from the City of Worcester, Department of Sustainability and Resilience. It's a recent shift from DPW, but all part of the city's new initiative to implement the Green Worcester Plan to make us the greenest mid-sized city in the country. So the Lakes and Ponds program has been out monitoring Lake Quinsigamond over the past few months. We were most recently out there yesterday and today, and we're measuring different water quality parameters that relate to lake health and possible risk to recreation. Some just general things that might be of interest to folks are the temperature of the water in the middle is approaching 80 degrees, so it's very warm. This is around the warmest part of the year for the water. We have a lot of oxygen in the water, which of course is important for our fish and aquatic life. One thing to note, though, is that due to the high temperature of the water, the amount of actual oxygen in the water is slightly lower than it would be if the water were cooler. And this, of course, is a challenge for those fish that require more oxygen and cooler water. And so if you look at the center column here, you could see these profiles that we do of the lake where we measure the temperature and the oxygen in the water at the surface and go all the way down and watch how that changes over time. Obviously, the top gets warmer and warmer throughout the summer. That actually sets up a kind of a barrier in the water so that the water on the bottom isn't able to mix into the water on top because it's denser and heavier and it kind of just sits on the bottom, and that causes oxygen not to be able to mix in. Throughout the summer, the oxygen gets depleted at the bottom of the lake, and as the water on the top gets warmer and warmer, the oxygen becomes more and more depleted, and so it creates this situation where you could potentially have stressful environment for fish. And what we're seeing here is that for those cold water fish like rainbow trout, which are stocked by the state, we have a very small band of water that is suitable for them. And that band in the northern part of the lake is between about 15 and 20 feet, and around the same in the lower basin. And so this is just something that we're keeping an eye on, especially as temperatures continue to warm. Theoretically, this is when, there's high stress and fish kills can happen. We haven't seen any evidence of that yet, but it's something that we're keeping an eye on. We're seeing low levels of nutrients in the water. Nutrients, of course, in this scenario are detrimental to our lake. They cause algal blooms and a lot of invasive aquatic plant multiplication. We're seeing, although like in the past we've seen high levels of E. coli, those bacteria that suggest that there are fecal bacteria around some of the beaches, we're finding in the middle of the lake we don't have very high levels of bacteria. So if you are questioning whether the water is good to swim in, usually by the time you get to the middle of the lake, any bacteria that have entered the water even after a large storm usually have dissipated or died off. They don't live in the water for very long. The light kills them. They just can't live outside of a warm-blooded creature. The DCR beaches are both open right now. They've been doing really well this summer, contrary to last summer when they were closed quite a bit. But over the last few weeks, we haven't seen any exceedances, which is really good. We have a few events coming up with the Lakes and Ponds program in collaboration with some of the watershed associations throughout Worcester, and which are open to all residents of Shrewsbury, Grafton, anyone who wants to participate. One is called Fish Tales. It's basically an online platform where you could submit stories about fishing and in and around Worcester's lakes, including Lake Quinsigamond, and be qualified to win prizes. The idea here is that we are going to take your stories and your photos and put them on display in a public space so that we could all enjoy them together and see like what great fish there is in our blue spaces. We also had an event that we were supposed to have this past weekend on Sunday. It was called Aquatic Family Science Day at Coes Reservoir. And it was an event where you could bring young people to learn about water quality parameters, learn how to, like how scientists catch fish and what they mean about water quality, or take samples of water and learn the different ways that scientists figure out how healthy an ecosystem is. That's being put on by the Tannic Watershed Association. We unfortunately had to postpone that because of the hurricane that was coming through. However, it will be open again for registration, so if you are interested in attending something like that, that's going to be taking place on September 11th now. So if you go to wooanglerseries.com, you can sign up for that event, and we really do hope to see you there because it's going to be a lot of fun. Just some more, like the final updates that I have for you are that we recently installed a biofiltration unit on Lake Ave North near Coal Mine Brook. So this is an area that has been of high concern to the Watershed Association and the Lakes and Ponds program because it's had a lot of sedimentation, high bacteria levels. And so it was a perfect opportunity for us to divert some of the stormwater from the street. Instead of having it wash out right into the lake, we could build a unit that would take it into the ground, slow down the filtration process, absorb some of those nutrients, and let the bacteria settle out on land so it doesn't go into the lake. And so we did that there, and we created a kiosk at Browning Beach to learn about how these systems work. We are also in the process of doing some improvements to the street itself. We're putting up a berm along the side of that road so that the water does not wash right from the road down into the lake, but is rather filtered into the catch basin that ultimately filters through this unit. We're also putting up new guardrail there. As some of you may know, that area is well used, and by putting up some guardrail, we'll be able to kind of make sure that when people go in, they're going in an area that's stable and safe and not risk hurting themselves. So the final update is that our monitoring devices, which are located in the northern and southern portions of the lake, have had mixed success so far, partly due to the fact that some of the high wake at Lake Quinsigamond turns them over. The monitoring portion of the device is on the bottom of the flotation, and the solar power array is on top. So obviously, when they're flipped over, they're not able to measure the water nor be powered. So that's something that we are hoping to have corrected with this really fancy weight system that you could see in the second picture there, that we just tied onto the bottom, that seems to be doing a good job at correcting the buoy every time it flips over. This is going to help us collect more accurate information in the future so that we can we're not going out there every other day to flip the buoys back over when they flip over due to a big boat going by or something. So, does anyone have any information on, any questions on any of this?
Just a question. Did you have problems with them flipping over last summer?
A little bit, yes. Yep.
I'm just wondering whether we're having further proof of more boat traffic, more wakes this summer.
So just as much as they flip over one way, they'll flip back, right? So we are able to look at the data and see wild oscillations in the parameters that suggest that, it's not measuring water temperature anymore, or there's no sunlight hitting it all of a sudden in the middle of the day. So we're kind of able to tease that out, and we see that they do self-correct sometimes. Unfortunately, it still kind of messes up your curves of your data and everything. So we're experimenting with this. We're hoping that it helps, but we haven't necessarily seen it happen more this year than last year.
I just had one question. So if there's a boater that's out on the lake that sees one of these flipped over, do you advise them actually going over and trying to right it? Or do you want them to leave it alone? Do you want them to send you a message? Or like, if we have people out there on the lake that are just using it
Right.
recreationally, do you want them messing with them to try to flip them back over or leave them be?
I mean, ideally, we don't necessarily want anyone, messing with the buoys at all. But if you are familiar with what this is, you know that what it's supposed to look like and you see it flipped over, then absolutely, like, feel free to pop it back over so that the large Frisbee side is up and it's like flat and flush against the water and you just see the solar voltaic units. Or photovoltaic units, and this on the bottom that you see in this picture, that's the sensor. That's the part that's actually taking the measurements. And so if that's up, then obviously we're not taking water quality measurements.
Thank you.
I have a question, Chair.
Go ahead.
The Browning Beach, you're putting guardrails for, what's the reason for the guardrails?
So there's, it goes down from the road, and so the road there drops off pretty quickly to the lake. And previously, there were some cement pillars and some chain link fencing, but over time that kind of fell apart. It must have been like 40 years ago that it was installed. And so it kind of fell apart and, there's a lot of erosion in that area. And it's just kind of an area where, if you come down that really fast, you probably.
So it's not to encourage people to use Browning, because that is posted that people are not allowed to be on Browning Beach.
Yeah, so this area is before Browning Beach.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Because I'm just thinking, because we have a massive problem over in that area.
Oh,
sometimes.
I understand,
Okay,
yes.
all right,
So
it's
this is
on
the area coming up to Browning Beach before the
Okay,
Colton
all
Bridge.
right.
And so, actually, if you look at this picture, Browning Beach is kind of on the other side of all that knotweed,
Okay,
where that building is, and this is kind of leading up to it from the southern direction.
thank you.
Yep. And so we're gonna be putting it like in the southern portion down here along the road.
I have a question.
Yep.
I went down there. It's beautiful. You
Oh,
guys
glad-
did a really nice job.
Oh, thank you.
And you're right, you definitely need something because further up, it's starting to go down. And you can't walk down there safely. But it's my understanding there's another storm drain on the other side. Mm-hmm. Is that going to be addressed, or is there a way for that to filter through this?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely could be something that we had talked about somehow, like figuring out something we could do with that catch basin as well. Yeah, eventually,
On the other side, that goes into the brook as well.
precisely, yeah. So this certainly catches some of the runoff from one direction, but from the other direction, hitting that other side, it doesn't get everything.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it, though.
Oh,
It's great.
I'm glad that you went out to see it. Yeah, it's held up really well, too, even with all the storms.
Does anybody else have a question?
Yep.
Would the guardrails prevent jet skis from being launched on Brownie Beach?
So they're not actually in front of Browning Beach, which is currently blocked off by Jersey barriers. So that area, the area that has the guardrail actually has a steep, rocky gravel slope that goes into kind of like a peninsula area where people have set up some
Camps.
camps. Yes. It's definitely a recreational portion, but it's not the portion that is the Browning Beach portion.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, do we have somebody here from the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association? Not today. Okay, I'd like to go back to just close out one bookkeeping detail on the public hearing. We made some mention about wanting to have abutters there. Do we need to take a vote to issue a letter, or a letter to the abutters so that we can get them at the next hearing?
Madam Chair, if I can make a comment?
Sure.
If, the idea, Bill, of no dock pulling up a boat, wouldn't that set precedents, and then next thing you know, everybody's gonna wanna throw a boat in the water?
I agree 100%. My only point was that I wanted to make sure we were clear that talking about docks was one issue and talking about boats was another issue, and they didn't accidentally get commingled.
Okay. I understand where you both are going with that, but I think that's conversation for the public hearing. So I just wanted to get that one little bookkeeping piece, because we did have a request that we have all the abutters there and not just some of the abutters, or some of the people in the neighborhood.
Okay, I'll make a motion then.
Before you make the motion, could I ask a question?
Okay.
Okay.
So, I know the meeting's not occurring right now, but the complainant filed a complaint about the resident at 2 Suntog, whatever the number Suntog, the gentleman was in here. The dock is owned by that gentleman. So it's between those two people, correct?
And another person.
And the other users of the dock.
And the other, so then I agree that I think that should be. And I didn't know if it was between, because that gentleman is the owner.
There's two property owners that abut, and this dock is at the end of a private road that the other three property owners on the road. So you've got 5 different properties that are involved in the situation.
Sure, but if it's a complaint between one person and another, I don't know how often we deal with this where we invite every neighbor, or we just post the hearing on Conscom if there's a complaint and an issue, you know, a person that's getting complained about and a complainant. We post the meeting, but unless there's a violation or something, it's not necessarily a notice to all the abutters because it's between two people. I understand there's other people using that dock, but the owner of the dock is the specific person that was here. So,
Madam Chair, can I make a comment on that?
Sure.
The reason I think we should is the person we had here brought up the suggestion we could then rotate the dock so it points in the other direction in front of the abutter on the other side of the road instead of the abutter that is complaining about it. So if we, might as well have them both here at the same time, otherwise we'll have a second hearing once it gets rotated in front of the other abutter.
so, okay, I'm good. I
I
think
disagree with that, I'm sorry. But we have discussed this numerous
What do you mean,
times.
you disagree with what?
It's very simple. It's stated that unless you are a land-owning abutter, you're not allowed to have a dock.
Madam Chair, how has he had a permit for 20 years?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Say it again.
How has he had a permit for 20 years without any issues and now all of a sudden?
Okay, so these are all questions for the hearing. They're all questions that we needed to table until the next meeting because of a health issue.
Okay.
So I'd like to not get into a discussion about this right now, because it's not part of our meeting right now. The hearing is off the table. I just want to know, do we want to notify all these abutters before the meeting? Or do we want to just rely on the public notification process? The gentleman did say that he hadn't heard about the prior 2 meetings where we discussed this, so I think it's prudent to do it.
What have we done in the past?
Okay, first you, then you.
I agree with Greg. I think it should be put, if it's a major concern, they would want to look into it and read the, whatever you said, the whatever it is, or rather notify and put it on something, so that they would read it. If it's a major concern to the abutters, I personally think that if it was a big concern to them, they would look into it. If then, you know, if they don't answer that to that, then obviously it's not a major concern to them.
And
Yes, my name is Eli Spayo. I reside on Suntog Road. First I heard of the meeting was the 20th of August when the agenda was posted. So I'd like to be notified properly, and I think all of the residents on the street should be notified. I think it does affect everyone on the street, and I don't think the complaint is truly from the individual at 4 Suntog Road. It's from, you know, someone else who applied for a dock and didn't get the license. And, you know, I think, you know, just because someone is upset, okay, that they cannot have, you know, access to the dock, everyone else should not be paying price for it. Right, so they were sold a house with water access. They should take that with their realtor, they should take it with their attorneys, right? And, I don't think, I mean, obviously, this is a decision for this commission, but it is definitely something that affects everybody on the street.
Okay, so then I'm willing to entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll just make a comment in the motion. The comment is that we're dangerously close right now of discussing this in detail without the people appropriate present. So we should probably protect ourselves by saying that discussion was just to make a motion that we would invite everybody at the next meeting. So therefore, I am now making the motion that we invite all 5 of the landowners, the 3 that are not on the water, the 2 that are on the water, to our next meeting to ensure that there is no problem with someone not showing up because they claim they never heard about it.
Second.
Joy, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye, no,
So is it unanimous then?
yes.
Okay. So we will send a letter out to all of the abutters, all of the property owners on.
I would like to go on record, though, that this commission is responsible for this dragging out for 3 months, because we all discussed this back in June.
So I will let, my brain is closing down. So I will let her tell you what the health issue was and why we decided to continue
Oh,
the
no,
hearing.
I'm not talking about that. I'm saying back in June, all the abutters should have been invited.
Well,
when
Wasn't
was
on the,
first
it wasn't on the agenda, though, as a
it was
hearing
just an issue.
at that point, unfortunately.
It certainly wasn't on the agenda as a public hearing.
Okay. Do we have the time now to notify everyone prior to the next meeting?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. On that note, we need to set the date of the next meeting.
September 29th, the last Wednesday.
Okay, do we need to take a vote on that? No?
That's when the room's available.
I'll entertain a motion to
I'll make
adjourn.
a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.